And I am here for another live episode of A Cup of Joe, live every Wednesday at 8 a.m., talking all things real estate on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So, again, thanks for tuning in. I've got my Cup of Joe mug with me here today. Grab your cup of coffee, sit down. I'm hoping to bring some value to you guys today. Let me know any questions that you have. And of course, if you guys would like a Cup of Joe mug, I can get one to you. We've also got t-shirts. Just let me know. Comment, text me, message me. Whatever is easiest for you, we can get it to you and we'll make it happen. So today's topic is how to navigate multiple offer situations. And I think this is a good one because I almost want to say that it's the new norm here in the real estate market. Well, I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but I do feel like I've probably been in more multiple offer situations these last couple months than just normal offers, not competing against anybody else. So super important. And I know a lot of you guys probably saw my Facebook post last week. One day on one of my listings, I had 154 showings in one day. That was absolutely crazy. So what we're going to be talking about today is if you are the buyer, how do you stand out? How do you make your offer stand out and ultimately win the deal? And if you're a seller, how do you determine which offer is actually best for you? And last week, I had another agent from another brokerage call me and say, hey, I'm a brand new agent. I'm trying to help my clients get a house. How do we win out over these cash offers? How do we beat these investors? I said, that's a great question. First thing you got to do is you got to come on board at Century 21. No, I'm just kidding about that. But we had a great conversation for about 15 minutes. And I think the first thing that I said to her was, it's important to have a great network of agents. I try to me personally, I try to meet as many other realtors as I can because I want to network with them and I want to be able to help them out and I want them to be able to help me out. So that way I can give them what my buyer clients might be looking for or any listings that I have coming on the market and try and match buyers and sellers before they even hit the market. So it's important to have an agent with great connectivity, and that's a great way to beat out those cash offers if you can beat the cash offer before it even gets there. But let's just say in this situation, there's already multiple offers on the table. You're competing against 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 offers. I don't know. I've seen it all the past couple weeks and months. So we're going to be talking about some strategies to get those multiple offer situations won. And I think the most important thing is knowing the situation of the seller. If there's so many different variables that go into an offer, so if you don't know the situation of the seller, how can you structure your offer with those variables to be most appealing to the seller and ultimately win the deal? You've got purchase price. Of course, money always talks. You've got due diligence periods. You've got earnest money. You've got closing date. You've got your special stipulations sections. You've got financing contingencies, appraisal contingencies, escalation clauses. There's so many different things that go into an offer that you can adjust to be most appealing to a seller. So, of course, I want to say that money always talks. Purchase price is always something that is important to a seller. But guys, when we're looking at an offer, a lot of people think about a quick closing date. That's not always appealing to a seller. That seller may have not found the house that they're looking for yet, or they might be building their next house. An extended closing could be more appealing to a seller, 45, 60, 3 months out. You never know what could be most appealing to a seller. What also could be appealing is what we call in real estate a temporary occupancy agreement. And this can be done for a buyer before closing, allowing them to have access to a house before closing. But in most cases, we talk about allowing the seller to have a couple of days in the house after closing to get their stuff moved out. And this can be super appealing to a seller if maybe they're doing back-to-back closings, selling their house and buying their next house in the same day. Allows them a chance to get moved out on a comfortable timeline. So that's something that can definitely be appealing. So we talk about earnest money. Earnest money deposit is money that you put down at the time of contract that essentially is some skin in the game for the buyer. So if you were to default on the contract, outside of your contingency periods, you would be liable to lose your earnest money. So typically, I would say we see earnest money about 1% of the purchase price. So if we're talking a $400,000 house, you typically see earnest money at $4,000. In a multiple offer situation, it can be appealing to a seller, elevating that earnest money amount, putting a little bit more skin in the game. So that way, in the event of a buyer default, the seller is getting more money in their pocket at the end of the day. However, it's showing that you're serious about moving forward with that offer. So we're seeing a lot of people doing 2%, 3% earnest money deposits, showing that they're serious about getting to the closing table and they have no intention of defaulting on the deal. We talk about financing contingency. So if your financing is strong, you might want to consider waiving your financing contingency altogether. That is a decision. That the buyer and their mortgage lender would have to make. But at the very least, I would recommend shortening down your financing contingency. So essentially, what the financing contingency does, if your financing were to fall through within that contingency period, you can get out of the contract, get your earnest money back in many cases if your mortgage lender can provide a loan denial letter. So typically, I would do a financing contingency around 21 days, shortening it down to 14 days if possible, getting rid of it altogether if you feel super confident in your finances. Now, appraisal contingency, much like the financing contingency, is a safety net on the appraisal. So in the event that the appraisal came in low and the seller did not agree to reduce the price to the appraised value, it essentially gives you a way out of the contract and getting your money back. But if that appraisal were to come in low outside of that appraisal contingency and the seller did not agree to reduce the price, you would be liable to lose your earnest money in that case. So shortening down the appraisal contingency can be good as well. Allows the seller to not have to go all the way up until the date of closing or close to it, waiting on that appraisal for something to potentially fall through. But also, what we've been seeing is some people waiving appraisal contingencies altogether, saying that whatever the appraisal comes in low at, they'll make up the difference in cash. That is a personal decision. I can't say that I personally recommend that, but if it's what makes sense to you, then go for it. What we have been seeing is a lot of people saying they'll pay X amount higher than appraised value, not to exceed the sales price. So you might see $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 over the appraised value, because at the end of the day, if these people are looking to stay in a home long term, paying a couple $1,000s over the appraised value is not going to put you in the hole substantially. But again, that is a personal choice. I do not pressure my clients one way or another to do something. I want what's best for them. And my job is just to best guide them. Now, something else that I wanted to talk about is what's called an escalation clause. Now, an escalation clause essentially states that the buyer is willing to pay X amount higher than any offer not to exceed X amount. I love them. Your job as a listing agent is to generate the best possible offer for the seller. So why not take advantage of escalation clauses and tell buyers that you're not willing to accept an escalation clause? So many agents get frustrated with escalation clauses, and I don't understand it personally. Maybe somebody can explain it to me, but when I'm on the sell side, I love seeing escalation clauses because I know it's a great opportunity to get top dollar for my client. So I don't get it, but that can be a great opportunity using escalation clauses. Again, essentially, all it does is a stipulation in the contract that states that the buyer is willing to pay X amount higher than any other offer, not to exceed X amount. So great opportunity there. Let me see what I have here. So this is a huge point that I want to make. We've got a couple people tuned in. We've got Kelly P tuned in. Looks like we've got Clark Morrison tuned in. Those are both some clients of mine. I appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. So this is a huge point that I want to make to agents out there. And I think this is one of the most important things that I'm going to talk about today. We talked about how to structure your offer to be most appealing to the seller. But how do you as a buyer's agent stand out to the listing agent and the seller. And I think the first thing is communication is key. If the listing agent doesn't know you or doesn't like you, your chances of having your offer accepted reduce dramatically. So how much is enough and how much is too much? I think me personally, and what I would recommend to you, but I'm not saying I'm 100% right, is 2 times a day. But I do it very gently. I reach out to them and I say, hey, this is Joe Bonderschmidt. I'm with Century 21. I just wanted to follow up on this offer. I'm not trying to be a pest. I'm just trying to make sure we get the deal for my client and do what's best for my client. And most agents will understand that. But something I also do is I say my name and who I'm with at the beginning and end of every single phone conversation with that listing agent. And the reason why I do that is because when these agents are talking with 10, 30, 40 different agents in one day, it's easy to forget who you are. So I want them to remember who I am. When they see my offer in their inbox, they remember, okay, I talked with him earlier. He wants to get the deal done. And if I feel like if I don't repeat my name, that they might not remember who I am. They might not remember that they've even talked with me. So I do 2 times a day. I talk with them in a very gentle way. And I ask questions. Every single time I ask the question, what will it take to get this deal done? My clients want this house and we want to know what it takes to get the deal done. And I think that's a super important question because no questions are off limits. So the worst thing an agent can say is, I'm not at liberty to answer that question. And that's fine. I get that all the time. But you will find out that most realtors talk way more than they should. And you'll get a lot of information out of them that you can use to structure your offer and ultimately win the situation. They might tell you something like, oh, my clients are buying their next home in Florida. I had this one happen last week. She said, my clients are looking to buy their home in Florida. I said, okay, great. She said, they're already under contract on it, so we just want to get with somebody that's going to get to the closing table. I said, okay. So we give them a clean offer up front, but now that it's time for inspection, we're sitting there drilling them with stuff because we know that they don't want this deal to fall apart because they want to keep their deal together on their Florida house. So keeping all these things in my mind, I know how to structure an offer. I know how to negotiate an offer. Let's be clean up front. But then once we get to after that inspection, we're going to be able to pick them apart a lot more because they're going to want to keep this deal together now that we're already a week into the deal. So pick up on as much information as you can, and remember, all questions are off, or there are no questions that are off limits. Get as much information as you can. Let's see. So agents, huge thing right here. Be buttoned up with your offers. This is huge. I can't stress this enough. When I'm on the listing side, I cannot stand to see an offer that is an absolute mess, because I do not want to feel like I am going to have to babysit that agent throughout the entire transaction. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants a smooth offer. Now, of course, if it's in the best interest of the seller to go with that offer, we're going to go with that offer. But at the end of the day, it's going to reduce your chances of getting your offer accepted dramatically if your offer is a total disaster. And what I mean by that, if it's a jumbled mess, if there's errors all throughout it. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on that. So make sure your offer is filled out properly with no errors in it. So make sure all the blanks are filled out. And as a common courtesy, I always fill out the co-op agent, so the listing agent in this case. I always fill out all of their information and their broker information, just as a common courtesy. Shows you're a little bit more buttoned up than most agents. So I highly recommend, if you're an agent, do that. And of course, if you're a home buyer and you're listening to this right now, make sure your agent is doing these things, because it can make or break your offer. So the other thing is, when you send the offer, make sure you follow if there are any offer instructions. So most cases you'll see, send the offer as a PDF. I know me personally, I want to see an offer as a PDF, and I can't stand when people or other agents send me their offers in their e-signature platform. we haven't accepted your offer yet. Don't send it to me in e-signature platform where it's a pain in the butt to download it. Send it to me in a PDF where I can see it, and I put that in my remarks in the MLS sheet. So I want to see an agent that can follow instructions. And going off of that, especially in these multiple offer situations where we're getting tons and tons of phone calls on these properties, we try to answer all the common questions in the MLS sheet that you see online. So something that can be frustrating to a lot of agents is when they're continuously getting phone calls with questions that are already answered if they just pulled up the listing. So those questions might be, do you have any offers? Well, the remarks on the offer say multiple offers received, highest and best offer due by whatever time. I get that question all the time. So look at the sheet first. Some other things that could be appealing to a seller are if there's any preferred vendors that they might be requesting. So you might see some sellers or listing agents request a specific closing attorney or a specific mortgage lender. Now that's your choice ultimately if you want to use those. But again, one of those things that can make you a little bit more appealing. So make sure all documents that are a part of the offer are in order. Okay? So to my agent friends out there, I get so many offers that are purchase and sale agreement, which is the offer itself. You might get Exhibit C, Exhibit A, Exhibit B, totally all out of order, a jumbled mess. Got to work through everything and separate all the documents, put it back in order. If you submit your offer in order, purchase and sale agreement, Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, and so on, it makes it a lot easier to read. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit more appealing to that listing agent, shows you're a little bit more buttoned up than most agents. And at the end of the day, better chance of getting your offer accepted. So I think those are all some great points that I want to go over that can benefit both home buyers and agents. And also buyers, if you're working with your agent, you might want to make sure that they are doing those things to ultimately help you win the deal at the end of the day. Now, what I want to get into is if you are a seller, what do you do when you're getting, 10, 15, 30 different offers? How do you determine which offer is actually best for you? And this can also help agents as well. So I know me personally, it really depends on your situation. Again, same way we're structuring an offer for buyers to be appealing to the seller, determining the best offer is going to depend on your personal situation. But I know for me personally, I have a spreadsheet that I use. And as these offers come in, what I'm doing is I'm updating this spreadsheet essentially because I know my client's situation, and I'm doing it as categorizing them to primary offers, so offers that could be, stand out a good bit, some possibility offers, and then some offers that I know are just totally out to begin with. So, and as they're coming in, I'm putting them in this spreadsheet. So when I do have to go and present offers to the seller, I've got everything organized and I don't have to go through a jumbled mess of offers, because when you're getting 30 offers on a property, it can be a little bit difficult to determine which is the best offer. But if I've already got them down to the top 3 or 4, it can be a lot easier to decide based on the person's situation. But of course, you always want to present all offers to the sellers. Georgia real estate law, so make sure you are doing that and do not leave out any offers that you have received, no matter how low they are, no matter how bad they are. You got to present them with the offer. So, as we discussed, there's many offers or many variables that can go into offers. So make sure you're finding out the situation that is best for the sellers when structuring your offer. And if I can help you guys with absolutely anything, that's what I'm here to do. It doesn't matter if you're a home buyer, a home seller, a vendor, or even a real estate agent. I want to help you, and that is the purpose of this. I think there's enough business to go around. So I am open to helping anybody that I possibly can. So feel free to reach out anytime. I appreciate all you guys tuning in to another episode of A Cup of Joe, which again is filmed live every Wednesday at 8 a.m. discussing all things real estate. And if you would like a Cup of Joe mug, let me know. We've also got t-shirts. So it's got the Cup of Joe with my smiling face on one side, and then it's got the Go with Joe and Company logo on the other side. And this is the logo that our t-shirts have as well. So if you would like either one of those two, let me know. I will either hand deliver it or send it over to you, mail it over to you. Appreciate all you guys tuning in. Josh Morgan, appreciate you tuning in, Hoss. I'll see you here in a couple weeks, and make sure you tune in live next Wednesday, 8 a.m. for another episode of A Cup of Joe.